the deep dive. We've got just a stack of sources here, articles, research, notes, and it's all focused on this one massive question. How do we actually influence people?
And maybe more importantly, how do we tell the difference between a real, genuine connection and, a calculated performance?
Exactly.
That's really our mission today. We're digging into materials that cover everything from psychological manipulation all the way to celebrity branding.
Right.
And what we're finding is that the formula for connection, it's eerily consistent. It doesn't matter if you're trying to win over a date, launch a product, or create art.
It's the same playbook.
The exact same core psychological levers, blending real value with this expertly managed presentation.
And the breadth of these sources is what makes it so fascinating. We're jumping from, ancient tales about Narcissus and modern dating advice, all the way to music production and AI.
A huge range.
So the central question we're exploring for you, the listener, is this. In a world that is just built on these curated images, how do we know what's real? How do we distinguish that manufactured attraction from a genuine, lasting connection?
Let's start at the very beginning. The mechanics of it.
First impressions.
First impressions. If you want to understand how humans size each other up, instantly, you have to start with this foundational psychological framework. Our sources kept citing this one Princeton researcher's formula.
Is warmth plus competence.
Warmth plus competence. And it sounds so simple, but I think that simplicity hides a lot of evolutionary value.
It has to.
It really does. So warmth addresses that primal question we're all asking, unconsciously when we meet someone new. Are you a threat to me?
Are you here to hurt me or my tribe?
Exactly. A signal of warmth is your way of saying, I come in peace. And if you fail on warmth, nothing else matters. The defenses just stay up.
Okay, so if warmth is the safety check, then competence must be the value proposition.
That's it. Competence is asking, how can you be of value to me? And this isn't just, professional competence. It's social, intellectual, emotional competence.
It's what you offer.
It's what you offer the other person. And the sources are so clear. You need both. If you're warm but incompetent, you're nice but kind of useless. If you're competent but cold,
That's a brilliant threat.
you're a brilliant threat, yeah.
I think the sources pointed out that the most seductive form of competence isn't always a fancy job title, right? One expert said true connection mastery is making the other person feel like they're living in a dream come true.
How so?
Because you're genuinely fascinated by their ideas, their intellect.
Yeah.
You're offering the value of validation.
Which is, that's high-level warmth and competence perfectly combined.
Yeah.
And the people who are truly skilled at this, they move beyond just conscious conversation. They use these subtle behavioral science tricks that completely bypass the conscious filter.
The stuff that works on the deep subconscious level. We saw two great examples of that. The first one is what the sources call the invisible pass.
So this is about covertly mirroring someone's body language.
Yeah, or subtle gestures, even matching their breathing rhythm. It sounds a little strange.
Well, the goal isn't to mimic them, right? It's about building rapport. You're not overtly saying, hey, I get you, but your body is communicating that you're in sync. The other person just feels safe and understood without really knowing it.
It almost feels a little manipulative, even if it's just a natural moment. And the second technique, this one is tied to Bruce Lee's philosophy.
Oh, right.
Which the sources labeled non-elegraphic movement.
Lee's whole philosophy with Jeet Kune Do was about cutting out non-essential, flowery gestures to maximize impact.
So in the context of influence, it means your affection or your humor. It has to feel authentic. It has to feel like it's just emerging in the moment, not calculated or rehearsed.
Right. If someone sees you trying to be funny or laying on compliments too thick, all their social alarms go off.
You look needy, which is like the total opposite of competence. The example they gave was this great high authenticity, low effort moment, like you're silently ranking dinner options on a menu with someone, and then you both just shout out the winner.
It's emergent fun. It's not a prepared joke.
Exactly.
Now, if we take that philosophy, that non-elegraphic movement, and we connect it to the darker side of influence, we get right into the manipulator's playbook.
Where efficiency is everything.
Everything. A good manipulator tries to transact as soon as possible, whether that's physically or just getting some kind of commitment or resource from you. That initial win, that moment of perceived competence, that's their hook.
But the truly insidious part, the thing that creates that long-term dependence, is what happens after that initial win. It's the strategy of nurturing dependence through inconsistent reward.
That is the classic addiction model. but it's applied to a relationship. See, reliability, it leads to complacency. Nothing creates an addiction like inconsistency.
I think the sources illustrated this perfectly. They said, if a person calls you reliably every single day at 4 p.m. for 2 weeks, and then one Wednesday, they just don't call.
Suddenly, you're fixated on the missing call.
Yes. The vulnerability is created because you hold on to this hope that the person they were at the start, the consistent, warm, competent one, is the real person.
And that this is just a temporary blip. They're just having a tough time.
Right. You start to define the relationship by that initial high-value benchmark, not the current inconsistent reality.
And that process of rationalization is precisely what keeps the manipulated person engaged.
This is where it gets really unsettling. The role our own ego plays in our vulnerability to this. The sources point out that the people who are most ripe for this kind of thing are often the ones who proudly say, I would never be played.
Why is that?
Because once the praise starts, you're the smartest person I've ever met, your work is genius, the ego gets highly invested in that story.
Okay.
So when the manipulator inevitably pulls back, the victim struggles to decouple themselves from that praise. Acknowledging that the praise wasn't true means admitting their ego was just inflated.
So instead, their ego insists, no, I know I'm great, and they'll go to the ends of the earth to prove they weren't manipulated and win back that true version of the relationship.
It's like a psychological sunk cost fallacy, but for praise.
That is a phenomenal insight into how influence works against our own self-perception. And it all ties into this core psychological defense against those transactional relationships. You have to reject the lie that intimacy is just currency or convenience.
Like something you use to make a social interaction less awkward.
Exactly. If you believe that, you're only deferring payment. That awkwardness you were worried about, it's going to happen right after the moment of intimacy when the transaction is over. Real competence is handling the awkwardness without compromising your boundaries.
That makes perfect sense. So we've covered the micro scale of personal influence and attraction. But if we zoom out, we see these exact same dynamic competence, manufactured authenticity, selective appeal playing out on the huge scale of celebrity and branding.
What's so fascinating here is how the path to fame and, maintaining a public image, it mirrors the narcissist's downfall, the ancient cautionary tale of Narcissus.
The one who fell in love with his own reflection.
It's completely relevant to celebrity culture.
So the reflection in the water, the public image, that isn't reality.
Not at all. Celebrities are at risk of becoming addicted to public perception, mistaking this curated, flat, two-dimensional reflection for who they really are. It pathologically feeds the ego until it becomes destructive and isolates them from any kind of genuine connection.
And that pressure to perform perfection leads to what all the big brands and A-listers want, this irresistible selective image. Sources call this the Janika factor.
This magic, unusual combination that makes a person or a product just unforgettable.
The power of it is contrast.
It is. They used Cameron Diaz as a prime example. She's beautiful, obviously, but she wasn't conventionally beautiful by the, say, 90s standard of perfection. She had this unusual off-kilter look, a wider smile, certain angles that made her hypnotic.
She stood out in a sea of interchangeable faces.
And became an instant A-lister.
So the core takeaway for influence, whether you're on a date or launching a brand, is that seduction has to feel selective. If the product of the person is just generically made for everybody, it loses its power. That Janika factor creates the feeling that this connection is unique, this brand is just for me.
And modern branding has become absolutely masterful at performing authenticity to capture that selective Gen Z market. I mean, look at Hailey Bieber.
Oh, yeah.
She executed this brilliant billion-dollar rebrand built around the clean girl aesthetic and glazed donut vibes.
It was incredibly calculated, and the timing was perfect.
It was a reverse trend, the whole Kardashian-era standard of high glam, heavy makeup, intense effort. It was seen by the younger market as elitist, as unattainable.
So Bieber's brand pivoted to this curated realness, minimal makeup, glowing skin, effortless style. It was a strategic rejection of high-effort glamour that perfectly met the Gen Z desire for approachable luxury.
It felt like an authentic corrective movement, even though it was, highly managed.
And the danger of relying on that manufactured authenticity becomes really obvious when that image gets betrayed. We saw the example of the anti-influencer, Michaela Guerra.
Yeah.
Her whole brand just it fell apart publicly.
She was the perfect example of anti-perfectionism, right? But during a live stream, a filter glitch was visibly caught on camera. It just betrayed the core promise of her brand.
That one moment showed how fragile that whole house of cards is. Once the mask slips, the connection evaporates and the audience just feels manipulated.
Which raises an important question. When is a display of emotion genuine, and when is it a performance? Our sources had some powerful criticism of celebrity culture, where these very visible displays of feeling, like during the recent Wicked press tour,
Oh yeah, that was everywhere.
they were viewed by critics as an elitist, condescending display of attention-seeking, not real emotional availability. It gets rejected because it feels like an attempt to leverage sympathy without any genuine risk.
The public is just highly attuned to performative emotion. People connect with warmth and vulnerability, but they reject a performance.
Which brings us beautifully into the world of art and music, where this battle for authenticity and influence is maybe the most visible and constant struggle.
Historically, great art often had to fight conventions just to exist.
Absolutely. The sources talk about blues and jazz using musical machetes to practice and transform chords and conventions. They shattered the rules and accepted European composition.
And then rock and roll came running through and basically changed the world by using that blueprint for disruption.
And so often, that change was met with fierce censorship tied directly to the social and political anxieties of the time. The struggle for artists to use their platform to comment on reality, it's enduring.
We saw some powerful examples of how music drives influence through confrontation. Billie Holiday famously fought legal battles to perform Strange Fruit, a direct, searing commentary on American racism.
And later, the Doors were banned from the Ed Sullivan Show for singing Much Higher during the line, Girl, we couldn't get much higher, because it referenced drug use.
And you have the PMRC, the Parental Music Resource Center, which formed in 1984 after Prince's song, Darling Nikki, detailed masturbation. It shows how one specific line in a pop song can force this massive social and legislative reaction.
And this is still happening today, though the battleground has kind of shifted to the courtroom. We're seeing what's called a real slippery slope when rappers' lyrics are used in court as an example of the defendant's character.
Which blurs the necessary line between artistic expression, a creative performance, and admission of guilt.
It threatens the ability of art to reflect reality truthfully.
So if an artist's competence is their ability to influence culture, that competence has been radically redefined by technology. The definition of competence in music production has evolved, maybe faster than in any other field.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the old way. Making a mixtape was described as hours of excruciating pain and patience. It was a recognized gift when someone gave you one because of the sheer cost of the effort involved.
Even the love for vinyl today it comes from that analog, pure, natural, warm sound, which is contrasted so sharply with what they call the compromised CD and MP3 formats.
And mastering used to be this expensive black art.
Right.
It was this final polishing process, highly skilled engineering to make a song sound perfect everywhere. It used to cost hundreds or thousands of dollars. It was like a chemist perfecting an audio formula.
But the new way is all about efficiency and radical democratization, mostly thanks to AI. AI can now instantly do tasks once reserved for those experts, like stem separation.
For listeners who don't know, that's splitting a mixed song into its core parts, drums, vocals, bass. Historically, that was impossible. Now, AI does it instantly and cleanly.
It's a revolutionary shift in competence. AI also instantly masters recording, bypassing that whole chemistry degree and giving you a perfect finished product. And crucially, it can now clone realistic human vocals and generate entirely new music instantly.
This just dramatically lowers the technical barrier to entry. And here's where it gets really powerful. Producers like Madlib succeed not by obsessing over that technical detail, not EQing every sound to perfection, but by prioritizing ideas as king.
His philosophy is loop-based and focused on abundance. He reportedly makes hundreds of beats a week. He just lets the creative ideas win out over technical obsession. Trust the idea.
That's fascinating because we can draw a direct line right back to Bruce Lee's philosophy.
I was just thinking that.
Madlib is showing the same competence philosophy in music. Eliminate the flowery, unnecessary technical stuff, the telegraphic movement of production, to let the core creative idea punch through. The effort goes into generating ideas, not polishing the non-essentials.
And ultimately, music is still one of the most powerful ways to have genuine influence, to communicate emotion, precisely because it can deliver these high authenticity ideas.
Yeah.
We saw how Kanye West's song Welcome to Heartbreak spoke spoke directly to his struggles with mental health.
Right, and it just underscores that music lets artists communicate deep personal meaning and vulnerability, even if listeners only hear a good tune and nod their head to the beat. The deep meaning is embedded in the competence, whether the listener is aware of it or not.
Okay, so let's unpack this for you, the listener, one last time. We've gone from the science of a first date to the economics of a billion-dollar brand, and the through line is clear. The drive for influence, whether you're getting a date or selling a product, it always requires this calculated display of value and authenticity.
And we've seen that the market, and just people in general, are attracted to uniqueness, to that Janika factor, but they instantly reject what's clearly performative, like the anti-influencer whose filter slipped.
Yeah.
So in a modern world that's just saturated with information, overload algorithms, curating everything, unlimited content, immediate gratification, the highest form of competence is the ability to focus, to refine, and to curate what you present.
Whether you're an artist like Madlib, a brand like Hailey Bieber, or a romantic interest who understands selectivity.
The ability to concentrate value is everything.
That curation and creating those ideas, it still requires effort. But considering the rise of AI, which can clone voices and generate music instantly, and the constant presence of manipulators using these subtle psychological levers, we're left with this final thought for you to consider.
If everything can be instantly faked, what is the most powerful and future-proof signal of true commitment in any relationship, whether it's romantic, professional, or artistic?
Is it the willingness to show genuine, uncalculated vulnerability? Or is it the demonstration of deep, costly effort that simply cannot be faked?